Hi everyone, it's Miss Dalgavell here. This is a presentation to share with you an approach that we use in school that's called zones of regulation. It's used to support children throughout school to help them to understand and manage their feelings and emotions. I've already done some parents meetings on this, so some of you it might be familiar already and you might just want to recap, but for others of you it might be something completely new. The work is based on a book by Leah Kuipers. The book is available on Amazon, but it is quite expensive. It comes with a CD as well. There are photocopiable sheets in it, which I can make available if you're interested. Why do we need to use this approach? We believe at Scotholme that managing and regulating your emotions is a lifelong skill that will hold them in good stead, not just at our school, but when they move on through education and into the world of work. The zones of regulation is a tool that helps pupils, students to regulate their emotions as well as their sensory needs. So it's a systematic and visual way for them to classify, that is to sort out the different ways that we feel. It's a simple tool that's easy for everybody to refer to and understand, and it's applicable to everyone, so everyone can use this, from our little ones in nursery to the adults. So adults in school and adults at home can use this, and it can be adapted for children with additional needs as well. When Leah Kuipers wrote her book and formulated this approach, she incorporated lots of ideas that were already being used in lots of schools, and she just pulled them all together to try and make a very simple approach to be used. One of the approaches she used was the work of Dr. Ross Greene, who's written the book The Explosive Child, and he always says that children do well if they can. If they're not doing well, it's because they are unable to meet our expectations and they need help and support in order to be able to do well. And Leah Kuipers has used this as the basis for her work as well. So what is emotional self-regulation? It can be described as the ability to manage your emotions and your behaviour in accordance with the demands of the situation that you're in order to achieve your goals. So if we meet a stressful experience, our ability to remain calm will help us to negotiate that difficult situation. So what are the zones? There are 4 different colours that are used to describe the zones. And as you can see on this slide, the colours are blue, green, yellow and red. And I'll go through each of these in more detail. The blue zone can be described as the zone with a very low level of emotion. So we will say you're feeling blue if you're feeling sad, sick, tired, bored, fed up, any of those things. The green zone is the optimum zone for learning. So the person will feel in control, calm, happy, ready to learn, focused and good to go. The yellow zone is when you start to lose a little bit of control over your feelings. So you might be becoming frustrated, worried, silly, squirmy, excited, uncomfortable or scared. But the key to the yellow zone is you're just starting to lose a little bit of control. The red zone is where you are fully losing control. So this can be because you're angry, wild or terrified, but it can also be because you're elated. You can go into the red zone at a football match if your team scores a goal. So these are pictures of the blue zone emotions, and I'd like you just to have a little look at them, see if you can recognise some of the emotions of the people, and think about times when you have felt yourself in the blue zone. Here are some words that might describe those blue zone feelings. Sleepy, depressed, upset, bored, tired, hurt, sick, shy, sad, disappointed, tearful, exhausted, low, and flat. Here are some pictures of people in the green zone. Have a look at the pictures, see if you can recognise the emotions, and think of some times when you have felt in the green zone. Here are some words to describe green zone feelings. Glad, content, happy, proud, feeling okay, appreciated, safe, pleased, thankful, focused, ready to learn, good, accomplished. Here are some photos of people in the yellow zone. Take a look, see if you can identify some of those emotions and think about times when you might have felt in the yellow zone. Here are some words to describe yellow zone feelings. Frustrated, overwhelmed, worried, surprised, confused, excited, annoyed, scared, embarrassed, nervous, silly, and upset. And here are some pictures of people in the red zone. Take a look, try and recognise those emotions, and again have a think about times when you feel that you get into the red zone. Here are some words to describe red zone feelings. Mad, angry, furious, livid, terrified, panicked, out of control, elated, aggressive. There are some important things to think about now. There are no bad zones. So we don't just use zones of regulation when our children have gone into the red zone or are having a tantrum. We need to understand that all the zones are expected at different times and in different circumstances. So there will be times where it's expected for somebody to go into the red zone. The key thing is that it's important to match your zone and how you're feeling to the social context and the environment that you're in. So I always use the example of if you're at a football match and your team score the winning goal in the cup final, you will be leaping around, jumping, screaming, shouting, and that will be fine. Nobody will take any notice of you. If you do that in a supermarket, the response to you will be different. So as the children get older in particular, we start to talk about what is appropriate behaviour in different situations. It's also important to remember that you can be in more than one zone at a time. We often have our children now saying that they feel a little bit blue and a little bit red, and they'll describe that as feeling purple. So the children use this and adapt it to talk about their feelings. Some emotions can fall into more than one zone, and again, it's not just to be used when the children are in the red zone. So you can point out to them when you can see your child in the green zone, if they're looking focused and ready to learn, comment on it. Say, well done, I can see that you're in the green zone now. What can you do now with your children at home to develop these skills further? So you can talk to your child about the colour zones and check their understanding. All of the children in school should be familiar with the zones of regulation. Ask them occasionally what zones they feel they are in. Use the zones yourself to describe how you are feeling. You could make a display of the colour zones at home. Encourage your child to use new vocabulary to describe their feelings and not just to rely on saying they're happy, sad or angry. Try and get them to use those other words we've talked about, like disappointed and frustrated, because this will help them to develop their skills to be able to recognise their own emotions. Leah Kuipers draws on the work of Michelle Garcia Winner when she talks about social thinking. There is a website address there if you want to look more into this. Now, as the children move up through school, we expect them to develop these skills of social thinking. So this is the ability to understand that others' thoughts, feelings and experiences are different from yours. So when the children are very little and they're in the nursery, we really focus on them getting to understand their own feelings. But as they move through school, we want them to understand that how they feel might not be the same as how their friend is feeling. Okay, and this is really important and key for them to be able to learn to regulate and manage their behaviour in different situations. Okay, so it explores the concepts of thinking about others in the same environment as you to help to guide those interactions with other people and to manage behaviour. And we start to talk about things like expected behaviour and unexpected behaviour. So this is quite key in school. We will talk about what's expected of them. And this then, the hope of this is that it will lead to generalised social skills and for them to grow up to be competent and independent. When the children are learning to manage and regulate their emotions and feelings, we talk to them about using tools. Now, these aren't always physical tools, but they can be strategies or different things that they can use to help themselves calm down. And these can be divided into 3 different categories. So there are some sensory strategies, there are some calming strategies and some thinking strategies. And I'll go into these in a little bit more detail. So there are some thinking strategies that we talk to the children about, which will help them in a situation to think about the best way to solve the difficulty or problem that they're having. And I will go into some of these thinking strategies in a little bit more detail now. One of the tools that we use is to think about the size of the problem. This helps pupils to understand the bigger picture of what's going on and teaches them to be objective in their thinking. And we talk about matching the size of the reaction to the size of the problem using a 5-point scale, which I will describe in more detail now. When children become upset in school, we ask them to think about the size of the problem. Okay, and the size of the problem can be measured on this 5-point scale. So it varies from a tiny problem to a little problem, a medium problem, a big problem, and a huge problem. And we remind children that we have to have the right reaction to the size of the problem. So actually, if it's a little problem that can be sorted out quite quickly, then we don't need to be going into the red zone. We can see that a little problem sits in the green colour, so we can have a green reaction to that problem and we can get it sorted quite quickly. So a big problem is a problem that many people share and there's no easy, quick or pleasant solution. And there will sometimes be big problems that will cause children quite rightly to go into the red zone. That does happen. That happens for us as well as adults. Okay. A medium problem is a problem that some people share but can be resolved quite quickly, so in an hour or a couple of days. So this sort of thing will involve a fallout with a friend. Okay, and then a little problem, so those green problems are things that only affect 1 or 2 people and that could be ignored or could be solved within a couple of minutes. So if a child becomes upset about something, we can talk to them about the size of the problem and how long they think it will take to get sorted and what kind of response they should be showing to that problem. Another of the thinking strategies that we encourage is for children to problem solve using stop, opt and go. And there's a traffic light to kind of remind them how this works. So stop before you act, think of all the options and how they will work out, and then go with the best option. So this is often useful on the playground if children are getting upset or angry with people, trying to calm them, wait for them to stop and to think about the best way of resolving the situation. One of the other techniques that we encourage the children to use is to think about the inner coach and the inner critic. So this is the voice that you kind of hear inside your voice when you're inside your head when you're doing something that either encourages you or discourages you in an activity. So some of the statements up are positive ones, some of them not so positive, and the positive ones we would say your inner coach. So things like you can do it, or try again, or I'm getting the hang of this. Those are things that can help children to become resilient and to keep trying. I talk to the children about this one a lot when I say that I run. I run very slowly. I'm often at the back of a race, but I enjoy running, and I will use these things to remind myself that I'm doing well as I'm running along and to keep me going and to stay positive. And we're encouraging this, particularly with our older children, to train themselves to have that positive inner voice, to really encourage them to become resilient as they go forward in life. We talk about the characters of Superflex and Rock Brain. So Superflex is the person who is a flexible thinker. Okay, so they can consider other people's points of view, and they can think of different ways to do things, and they can change how they're thinking as well. So a flexible person is able to change how they think. So rock brain thinking is a rigid thinking pattern where a person gets stuck on an idea and has difficulty considering other options or ways of doing things. And this can often happen at home with parents and children, where an adult will say to a child, do this, and the child will say, I don't want to do it, and you can get into an argument where you're both being rock brains. And what you need to be able to do is to show children how to become flexible and how to compromise. So you could say to your child, okay, let's do this first and then we'll do that. Or okay, what do you want to do now? And then when will you do what I want you to do? So by being flexible yourself, you can teach your own child those skills. The aim of emotional regulation is usually to get feelings back under control, so that is back into the green zone. So we will talk to the children about what they can do if they're feeling blue or yellow or red to help them to come back into the green zone. And it won't be the same for everybody. So what works for one child won't necessarily work for another child. So we encourage the children to think themselves about things that will help them, but we offer them lots of suggestions. If children say that they're feeling in the blue zone, so they're got very low emotion, we need things that will help them to wake up, to make them feel better, and to regain focus and to try and get them back into the green zone. If they're in the green zone already, we want things that help us to stay there, so things that help us to stay calm, focused, feeling good. So these are proactive things that will keep us in that green zone. If they're moving into the yellow zone and they're starting to lose a bit of control, they'll need tools that help them to get control back and to keep themselves calm. So this is particularly important for children who are anxious, who spend a lot of time in the yellow zone. And then the red zone tools are the things, if the children have really lost control, the key thing is to think of things that they can do to help themselves to stay safe and to start themselves to calm down slowly. So these are blue zone ideas. So these things that can be suggested to children if they're feeling tired, a bit slow, low in mood. Okay, so I always talk to the children about the fact when I'm driving to school in the morning and I'm feeling very tired early in the morning, I put loud music on in the car, and that helps me to kind of wake up and feel ready for school and be in the green zone as I walk in the door. So these are the things that could help. Stretching, eating a mint, eating an apple or a carrot. So crunchy things will stimulate children and move them out of that blue zone into the green zone. Drinking ice cold water, playing a fun game, talking to an adult or a friend. Again, if a child comes into school and they say they're feeling in the blue zone, it could be for a very good reason. You know, they might come in and say their pet has died, and that, you know, that is what they are thinking about at the moment, and it's hard for them to focus on their work. We might give them a few minutes just to go and talk to an adult or to one of their friends about how they're feeling, and often that can help them get themselves back into the green zone and ready for work. They might need a movement break just to get them focused back and back ready to work. A rocking chair can often help people. Jumping, listening to some upbeat music, using a wobble board, or simply splashing a face with cold water. So there are these things and many other tools that you could use to help the children, particularly first thing in the morning if they're a bit sluggish, to get them up ready for doing their work. So the yellow zone. The yellow zone is the time when children might start to be losing a bit of control. So that might be due to anxiety before a test or something, or if it's they start to get silly when they're outside and playing, or if they're nervous about meeting new people. Okay, so these are things that can help the yellow zone. Deep breaths. Now this is the one I personally use a lot. If I'm going somewhere and I feel anxious or nervous about it, I will really concentrate on taking those deep breaths in and breathing out slowly, because that will help to get control back. Asking someone for help. If you're worried or anxious or something, talk to somebody about help. Using those positive thoughts. So this is the inner coach where you can train yourself to be thinking, I can do this, I'm almost finished, I'm going to make it. Asking to talk to an adult, using a stress ball or a cushy ball, listening to calming music, playing with a slinky, doing a puzzle, colouring a picture, using scented hand cream, using visual timers, therapy. Heavy work. This is a good one because often picking up something heavy will help to ground children and help them to feel a bit safer and a bit more stable, and it can be a very calming activity. Using a balance beam or a wobble board, doing some yoga, putting some earplugs in, or asking for a bit of space on your own. And our children at Scotholme are starting to get very good at just saying, I need to do this for a minute and then I'll be ready to work. And this is really what we want for our children, is to be able to recognise the tools that help them. So when we think about the red zone, there are times where the red zone is expected. If someone's trying to hurt you or attack you or stolen from you, or you're watching a scary movie, or you fall off your bike or skateboard, or your team wins the championship or a cup game, you will expect it to show some extreme emotions and you will go into the red zone. Okay, but it's important that people learn how to calm themselves down from that red zone. And the things we talk to children about doing is to move away straight away from whatever it is that's upsetting you. So you take a break away from what it is that's making you angry. They could request a move to somewhere more sensory. So often some children like to have a cushion or a blanket or something that makes them feel safe and secure. Go for a walk, get some fresh air, or just to kind of have some earplugs and cut themselves off for a little while to allow them to calm down. It's really important that adults who are around children that are in the red zone are there to support and encourage them to stay safe. So if your child is angry and having a temper tantrum at home, please don't spend a lot of time talking at them or shouting at them. Just encourage them to calm down as best you can in a calm manner, okay, and leave them to have some time to calm themselves down, and then be there when they are calm and ready to talk to them afterwards. Here are some ideas of some sensory tools that can be used with children. So if a child is in the blue zone, then going on the trampoline will help to lift their mood up and help them get back into the green zone. If the child is in the yellow or red zone, things like ear defenders will help them. Massages might help them. In school, we use quite a lot of the small squidgy little toys that can help children, particularly if they're feeling anxious and they can have something to squeeze, it can help them. There are different tools that the children can use to calm themselves down. Breathing is often the best way to calm children, because obviously you can use these techniques anywhere. You don't have to be carrying anything with you. So if you're out in the shop and your child starts to get upset, then helping them to slow their breathing will help to calm them down. Have some sheets for the 6 sides of breathing and the lazy 8 breathing, which I'm happy to send out. If you message me on Dojo, I will send these things out to you. Doing yoga at home with your children will help them as well to learn the skills to stay calm. So finally, Just going to look at the steps that children will go through to reach independent self-regulation and the ability to manage and cope with their own feelings. So initially, we just want children to be able to identify the colour zones and to be able to link their feelings to them. Then we want them to be able to increase their vocabulary so that they've got the words to explain precisely how they're feeling. Okay? We want them to be able to know when and how to use the regulation tools so they can start to think themselves, I'm feeling anxious, I'm in the yellow zone, what can I do to calm myself down to get back into the green zone? We want them to be able to problem solve positive solutions, so thinking about the stop, opt and go, so thinking about what the best options are for them to use in that situation. We want them to be able to understand how their behaviour influences other people's thoughts and feelings. So they will start to understand if they are screaming and shouting, then they will be upsetting other people around them. Now, all these things don't happen overnight. We work through school from nursery right to year 6 to develop these skills so that we have children leaving our school at the end of year 6 who are able to independently regulate their feelings and emotions, because we know that this will lead to greater success for them as they become an adult. Have a go at home. Please join in with what we're trying to do at school. Message me on Dojo if you've got anything you'd like to talk to me about, if you want to talk to me further about it, or you would like me to send you any of the printed sheets that we have from the workbook. And good luck. Many thanks.